course they're going to go after those guys, but a big thing to watch is what happens with Bam Adebayo. Now, Bam has the option of signing a huge extension this offseason. He is going to be a max player. Or he can do what numerous players have done over the last 5-6 years and wait and push it back. And if he waits and push it back to sign the following year, then it gives the Heat so much more cap flexibility. And it's interesting to point out that Bam and Giannis Antetokounmpo have the same agent. Doesn't mean they'll make the same choices, but
tampering in the NBA is one of the most egregious violations that typically occurs in the midst of free agency. The official definition of tampering is when a team, player, or coach attempts to approach or lure players on rival teams when they are bound by contracts with their respective teams. Well, historically, we've seen instances where teams have been able to successfully navigate the course of tampering in order to get a slight edge on a player who is to be a prospective free agent or a player that is soon to hit free agency. So what's going on, guys? It's your boy Mike here. Before we get to the content, I'm just letting you know that I'm giving away a PlayStation 5 on this channel, on Twitter and Instagram. All you have to do to enter on this channel is subscribe and turn on my notifications, and we have links to the other giveaways in the description down below. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. There is no doubt in anyone's mind that the biggest fish in the prospective free agency class of 2021, not 2020, but 2021, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. And well, I recently saw a report about Giannis Antetokounmpo come out that had to do with Bam Adebayo. So I remember thinking to myself a while ago, what's the significance of two players having the same agent? How does this provide any advantage whatsoever? So allow me to take you back to 2017. In the summer of 2017, the Los Angeles Lakers were an exciting, young, up-and-coming team featuring the likes of D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, and yeah, who could forget the fact that they paid Luol Deng a max contract for sitting on the bench? Well, for lack of a better term, things were not looking so good for the Los Angeles Lakers. Magic Johnson decided to package Timofey Mozgov and D'Angelo Russell together and ship him off to Brooklyn in order to get some cap space for himself. At the time, your boy was trying to become a dentist, but he also did make YouTube videos from time to time, so I actually happened to record my reaction to the trade.
If you're an angry Laker fan, if you're as angry as I am, if you're as angry as TheFlightMike is right now, and you see this shit on Twitter, tweet this shit out. We're tagging Magic Johnson in this. I'm heated, bro. I am heated, bro. Oh my God, I'm heated. I just left the library, literally within 20 minutes of getting there, starting to study, and I'm driving home right now to make this video. Oh, baby. You were...
That's for everyone that thought I was a bandwagon Laker fan. Cap space, which was never used, by the way. It's something that we don't talk about enough, but that trade was essentially done for absolutely nothing. We signed absolutely nobody with that additional cap space. Well, another move that they did that summer, other than drafting Lonzo Ball and Kyle Kuzma and Josh Hart, was by far one of the most disgusting overpays that I have ever seen in NBA history. You see, the Detroit Pistons' number 8 pick in the 2013 NBA draft, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, was about to hit restricted free agency. However, the Detroit Pistons just traded for Avery Bradley and also had Luke Kennard and Tobias Harris, which essentially made absolutely no sense to pay Kentavious Caldwell-Pope the amount that he was seeking in the free agent market. With that being said, the Detroit Pistons decided to renounce Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's rights, which essentially made him a unrestricted free agent. Now, when you go from restricted to unrestricted, all that means is a restricted free agent has the opportunity to have his original team match the contract that was given to him by a different team. Once they're unrestricted, that player has the free will to go wherever they want. It's usually seen as kind of an insult whenever a team renounces the rights to their player after 4 years. It essentially means that the draft pick didn't pan out for whatever reason. Well, the Los Angeles Lakers, being in desperate need of any type of youth infusion whatsoever in order to spur their roster and stop competing for lottery balls, decided to sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to a 1-year, $18 million contract. To give you an idea, that's more than Draymond Green and Lou Williams. That's more than JJ Redick is making this year. Heck, that's even more than Eric Gordon's making this year, to give you an idea of how expensive that contract was for KCP, and the value that they were receiving in return for it wasn't really there, in my opinion. Like, literally right above that bracket, you have players like Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine, and Goran Dragic. It just didn't make any sense to me at all. Why would the Los Angeles Lakers pay a player that was averaging about 13 points per game, $18 million just to be with their franchise for a year? Well, if you look at Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's agent at the time, it was Rich Paul of Clutch Sports. And who else was Rich Paul representing at the time? Well, none other than LeBron James.
What the fuck?
You see, by being able to sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, whenever they were discussing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's contract, or whenever they had to contact Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's agent at all to negotiate a contract extension for KCP, well, they would also be able to bring up Rich Paul's BFF since high school, LeBron James, in those negotiations, and there wasn't really a way to tell if they were tampering or not, because the Lakers could claim that they were just negotiating a deal for KCP when they were really inquiring about LeBron James, whereas LeBron James would get to tell Rich Paul what he is seeking in a potential deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. And if you think I'm absolutely psychotic, well, think of it this way. The moment free agency started in the 2018 free agency period, LeBron James announced a 4-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers that was essentially already done. There were no tours, there were no pitches, he knew exactly where he wanted to go. It seemed as though everything was already ironed out and everything was already planned. Well, that's not the only crazy thing that happened that summer, because literally 2 months after LeBron James announced the fact that he is going to take his talents to the West Coast to play for the Los Angeles Lakers, Anthony Davis announced that he signed with Clutch Sports Agency. 4 months later, Anthony Davis officially requested a trade from the New Orleans Pelicans, and literally 2 weeks later, when LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo were drafting their respective teams, this happened.
With my first pick in the second round, I'm going with Anthony Davis.
You sure you want him to be your teammate?
I'm very sure of that.
Isn't that tampering?
No. Shots fired, and you're up.
Tampering rules does not apply on All-Star Weekend.
Go ahead, freak.
What the fuck?
The Lakers were supposed to trade for Anthony Davis during the trade deadline of LeBron James's first year, and you would literally see LeBron tweeting about it, saying things like, "Where's McMenamin?" And it got to the point where his current young teammates felt terrible about being on the roster with him. The rest of the season was an absolute nightmare for LeBron James and the Lakers. There were chants of LeBron's gonna try to trade you for the finale of his first year, and all in all, the fact that this Anthony Davis trade wasn't pulled off in the middle of the season, right at the trade deadline, was seen as a colossal failure on both sides. On the Lakers side of things, we saw Magic Johnson step down, whereas on the Pelicans side of things, we saw Dell Demps get fired. The reason being that this trade was supposed to go down. The Pelicans were ready to move on from Anthony Davis and take on a huge amount of assets that the Lakers were going to present them with, and the Lakers were going to get Anthony Davis to presumably make by far one of the greatest second half resurgences in NBA history, to make a push for the NBA Finals since probably the Lakers' acquisition of Pau Gasol in the middle of the season during 2008, when they traded for Pau Gasol and were able to make a push for the NBA Finals that year. But we all know how this story ends. Anthony Davis gets traded to the Los Angeles Lakers a year and a half ago in July. The Pelicans end up getting their assets, although a little bit less because it wasn't a mid-season off-season trade, it was a postseason trade, and the Lakers were able to win their first NBA championship with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. So Mike, what are you trying to tell me here? Well, what I'm trying to tell you is the fact that Bam Adebayo and Giannis Antetokounmpo both have the same agent is absolutely a huge deal, especially if you're the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat could essentially do the exact same thing that the Lakers did with KCP, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis in order to bring along Giannis Antetokounmpo. But here's the interesting thing about the Miami Heat. They also have something else that's going for them that we saw occur 4 years ago. You see, 4 years ago, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors were set to play in the NBA Finals for the second consecutive year. Well, we know what would end up happening. Draymond Green will get suspended for a couple of games. LeBron James would be able to bring the Cavaliers back from a 3-1 series deficit, and the Cleveland Cavaliers would win their first NBA championship in literally decades. Well, the result of that was Kevin Durant felt like he was needed by the Golden State Warriors to push them over the hump against a fully loaded Cleveland Cavaliers squad. Therefore, Kevin Durant decided to sign with the Golden State Warriors that offseason. He would go on to win 2 championships with the Warriors, and we know how the rest of that story goes. Giannis Antetokounmpo's relationship with the Miami Heat is eerily similar to both of these stories, because on one hand, he has the same agent as Bam Adebayo. At the same time, the Miami Heat clearly need an additional star in order to make a push to potentially beat the Los Angeles Lakers. Let me know what you guys think about this take in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm live streaming on Twitch right now, so if you want to come on by, it's twitch.tv/FlightMike, and maybe I'll see you guys there. But for now, I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.